Welcome to the English Story Well channel, your ultimate destination for captivating stories that enhance your English learning journey. Here, we believe that stories are not just a form of entertainment, but a powerful tool to improve your language skills. Let's go to started.
In the quaint village of Greenbrook, nestled between rolling hills and lush forests, lived a young girl named Sophie. Sophie was known for her love of nature and her curious spirit. She spent most of her days exploring the woods, collecting wildflowers, and daydreaming about magical adventures. One crisp autumn morning, Sophie received a mysterious letter. The envelope was made of thick, creamy paper, and the handwriting was elegant and ornate. She opened it carefully and read, "Dear Sophie, you are cordially invited to visit the Enchanted Garden, a place of wonder and mystery. Follow the silver path in the forest at sunset, and all will be revealed. Yours truly, the guardian of the garden." Sophie's heart raced with excitement. She had heard legends about the Enchanted Garden, a magical place hidden deep within the forest, but she had never imagined she would be invited there. She decided to go that very evening. As the sun began to set, Sophie made her way to the edge of the forest. She found the silver path, shimmering faintly in the twilight, and followed it. The path wound through the trees, leading her deeper and deeper into the forest. Just as the last rays of sunlight disappeared, she reached a clearing. In the center of the clearing stood a magnificent gate made of intertwining vines and flowers. It sparkled with a soft, ethereal glow. Sophie took a deep breath and stepped through the gate. The Enchanted Garden. As Sophie entered the Enchanted Garden, she was awestruck by its beauty. The garden was filled with vibrant, otherworldly plants and flowers that seemed to glow with their own light. The air was filled with the sweet scent of blossoms and the soft hum of magical energy. She walked along the winding paths, marveling at the wonders around her. Trees with silver leaves towered above her, and flowers of every color imaginable bloomed in abundance. She saw fountains of sparkling water, statues that seemed to move when she wasn't looking, and small, glittering creatures flitting about. Suddenly, a soft voice spoke from behind her. "Welcome, Sophie." She turned to see a tall, graceful figure standing before her. The guardian of the garden was dressed in flowing robes of green and gold, and their eyes sparkled like stars. "Thank you for inviting me," Sophie said, her voice filled with wonder. "This place is incredible." The guardian smiled. "I am glad you think so. The Enchanted Garden is a place of magic and mystery, and it chooses its visitors carefully. There is something special about you, Sophie." Sophie's cheeks flushed with pride. "What is this place, exactly?" "The Enchanted Garden is a sanctuary for magical creatures and plants," the guardian explained. "It is a place where nature's magic thrives and where those who appreciate its beauty can find peace and inspiration." The quest. As they walked through the garden, the guardian told Sophie about a special quest. "The garden is in need of help," they said. "There is a rare and powerful flower called the Luminera that blooms only once every 100 years. Its light is essential for maintaining the garden's magic. However, the Luminera is hidden deep within the forest, and only someone with a pure heart can find it." Sophie felt a surge of determination. "I will find the Luminera and bring it back." The guardian nodded. "I believe you can. Take this amulet. It will guide you on your journey." They handed Sophie a delicate silver amulet with a glowing blue gem in the center. "Follow its light, and it will lead you to the flower." With the amulet in hand, Sophie set off on her quest. The forest was dense and filled with shadows, but the amulet's light shone brightly, guiding her way. She encountered various magical creatures along the path, some friendly, some not so much, but she pressed on, driven by her desire to help the garden. The trials. As Sophie ventured deeper into the forest, she faced a series of trials designed to test her courage, wisdom, and kindness. The first trial came in the form of a riddle. She reached a clearing where a wise old owl perched on a branch. "To continue, you must answer my riddle," the owl hooted. "What has roots as nobody sees, is taller than trees, up, up it goes, and yet never grows?" Sophie thought for a moment and then smiled. "A mountain," she answered confidently. The owl nodded approvingly and allowed her to pass. The second trial tested her bravery. She encountered a bridge guarded by a fierce-looking troll. "To cross this bridge, you must face your greatest fear," the troll growled. Sophie took a deep breath and closed her eyes. She thought about what scared her the most, the idea of being alone and lost. But she reminded herself of the garden and her mission. Gathering her courage, she stepped forward and faced the troll. To her surprise, the troll smiled and stepped aside, allowing her to cross. The third trial was a test of kindness. Sophie came across a small, injured dragon lying in the path. Its wing was hurt, and it looked at her with pleading eyes. Without hesitation, Sophie used her scarf to bandage the dragon's wing and gave it some water from her flask. The dragon nuzzled her hand gratefully and flew away, leaving behind a trail of sparkling dust that pointed her in the right direction. The Luminera. After hours of walking and overcoming trials, Sophie finally reached a secluded glade bathed in soft, golden light. In the center of the glade stood the Luminera, a magnificent flower with petals that shimmered like starlight. It was the most beautiful thing she had ever seen. Sophie approached the flower cautiously. She could feel its magic pulsing in the air. Carefully, she picked the Luminera, and as she did, the amulet around her neck glowed brightly. With the flower in hand, she began her journey back to the Enchanted Garden. The path seemed shorter this time, and she moved with a sense of purpose and accomplishment. The return. When Sophie returned to the garden, the guardian was waiting for her. Their eyes shone with gratitude and pride. "You have done well, Sophie. The garden owes you a great debt." Sophie handed the Luminera to the guardian, who planted it in a special spot in the center of the garden. As soon as the flower touched the soil, it began to glow brightly, and the entire garden seemed to come alive with renewed energy. "Thank you, Sophie," the guardian said. "Because of you, the Enchanted Garden will continue to thrive for another 100 years." Sophie felt a warm glow of happiness and fulfillment. She had completed her quest and helped preserve the magic of the garden. As the sun began to rise, it was time for Sophie to leave the Enchanted Garden. The guardian walked her to the gate and placed a hand on her shoulder. "You are always welcome here, Sophie. The garden will remember you." Sophie smiled and nodded. "Thank you. I'll never forget this place." With one last look at the garden, she stepped through the gate and found herself back in the forest. The silver path was gone, and the morning light filtered through the trees. She made her way home, her heart full of the magic and wonder she had experienced. A new beginning. Back in Greenbrook, life returned to normal, but Sophie was forever changed. She carried the memories of the Enchanted Garden with her, and they inspired her to appreciate the beauty and magic in the world around her. She continued to explore the woods, but now she did so with a deeper sense of purpose. She shared her stories with the other villagers, and her adventures inspired them to see the world with new eyes. Sophie also kept the amulet, which now glowed softly as a reminder of her journey. She wore it every day, a symbol of her bravery, kindness, and the magic that existed within her. As the years went by, Sophie grew up, but she never lost her sense of wonder. She became a storyteller, sharing her tales of the Enchanted Garden with children and adults alike. Her stories brought joy and inspiration to everyone who heard them, and the legend of the Enchanted Garden lived on through her words. And so, the magic of the Enchanted Garden continued to touch the hearts of many, reminding them that wonder and adventure are always just around the corner, waiting to be discovered by those who believe. Passing the torch. One day, many years later, Sophie met a young girl named Lily. Lily was much like Sophie had been, curious, adventurous, and full of dreams. She often came to Sophie to hear her stories about the Enchanted Garden and the magical creatures within it. One autumn afternoon, Sophie noticed a familiar sparkle in Lily's eyes. She saw the same curiosity and wonder that had led her to the Enchanted Garden years ago. "Lily," Sophie said gently, "have you ever felt like there's more to the world than what we see every day?" Lily nodded eagerly. "Yes, I always feel like there's something magical just waiting to be discovered." Sophie smiled and handed Lily the amulet. "This amulet guided me to the Enchanted Garden when I was your age. I believe it's time for it to guide someone new. Follow the silver path in the forest at sunset, and you'll find the garden." Lily's eyes widened with excitement as she took the amulet. "Thank you, Sophie. I can't wait to go on my own adventure."